Hey guys, Nick here from J4U Studios, and welcome back to another episode of the J4U podcast. That is right, we are back, and we got a good amount of stuff to talk about. But hello, Fortnite kid, welcome to the live stream. It's nice to see you. I'm excited to have you, and we're gonna really just kind of get started here. I don't have a whole lot of intro stuff to talk about, other than if you haven't noticed, Transcrafters episode 2 has been scheduled. You can see that it's there. You won't be able to actually watch it until a week from now on Saturday. Yeah, I also got my editing machine back, so that's the reason I waited a little bit longer than I wanted to schedule episode 2 of Transcrafters, but it's there, so in about 2 weeks you'll be, or not 2 weeks, in 1 week you'll be able to watch it. So yeah, it's a good episode. I like all the episodes this season. I'm very excited. Sorry for the weird name, but it's Jonathan. Okay, hey Jonathan, nice to see you. Welcome to the live stream. Happy to have you. Star Vlogs as well. Hello, welcome to the live stream. Nice to see all you beautiful people. And it's a little bit earlier than I typically live stream, so I got myself a coffee here. Very good. But yeah, awesome. So as you can kind of see by the title, the first thing we're really going to talk about is the new Aladdin movie that just came out. I saw that yesterday. All the topics for this will be spoiler free, so if you have not seen Aladdin, no worries, you're all good. I'm not going to ruin the story that came out, 30, 40 years ago now? 30 years ago, probably? I don't know. How's your day going? My day is going quite well, actually. Thank you very much. It's still fairly early. Woke up around 6-ish this morning to feed the animals and water the plants, adult stuff. And then I went back to sleep for like half an hour, and then I woke up and cooked breakfast for myself. So it's a good day. It's a very good day. And then I got a gig that I'll be doing from, late afternoon to early evening. So that'll be good. And that's another reason I want to do this live stream, is because I'm going to be pretty busy the next 2 weeks on a freelance project. So, yeah. But anyway, going into Aladdin. So I'm sure you're all familiar with the general story of the Aladdin, but this is the 2019 Will Smith Genie version of Aladdin. And I guess my main takeaway from it is that I thought it was good, as in it wasn't bad, but it was good, not great. So, hold on, let me read your comment, Jonathan. I saw Aladdin yesterday too. It wasn't really my cup of tea, but it was good. Yeah, that's fair, I agree with that. Still think the original is better, of course. And you can't really get the emotion of the original. Okay, that's something else I'm going to talk about. Because in terms of comparisons with the animation, this movie, one thing I actually liked that I wasn't sure I'd like was the fact that it did a lot of things differently from the animation. And I thought the things that were different, for the most part, not every time, I liked. The things were like, oh, that's very different from how they did in the animated movie. Cool, I'm interested, I'm hooked, I'm engaged because I want to see how they do it. Whereas the things that are like very similar to how they did it in the animated movie really fell short for me. Like the first act especially, maybe the first 20-ish minutes, in my opinion, was really rough to sit through. There are some elements of it I liked, but definitely there's a lot of it that I was like, I'm not a big fan of that. Like One Jump, the song One Jump. For me personally, I wasn't a fan of. I did not like how they did that. And that's also comes from the fact that I've directed or been an assistant director for a production of Aladdin, which is another reason I think I am not hating it as much as a lot of people on the internet are, because I see the Aladdin story as more just the animation. Because I've seen it on Broadway, I think twice, which is also very different. I've seen it what was it? It was one of the Disneyland. It's a specific thing. One of the Disneyland stage performances where they had the flying carpet go around the audience and stuff. That was really cool. Disneyland Adventures or something. It was one of those shows. I saw it there. And then I have directed and seen other performances of Aladdin. So I know the story beyond just the movies. Hold on, let me catch up with comments here. Going to see Aladdin today. That's awesome. Who is my favorite Transformer? That question has kind of changed. Favorite Autobot nowadays is probably Optimus. Favorite Decepticon Shockwave. And I agree. First 20 wasn't good, to be honest. Didn't even know who Jasmine was at first. Yeah, because they really rushed past the initial introductions to the character, which is another thing I think they did on purpose, was the idea of they're not making this film as a substitution for the animation. They made this for people who have seen the animation and want to see a live action version of that. This is not for people like, oh, I've never seen Aladdin, I'll put on the 2019 version. This movie was not made for those people. This was made for the people like, oh, fuck yeah, I love Aladdin. I want to watch a slightly longer version of it with Will Smith. Cool, this is the movie for you. There. So that was something else I found very interesting with it. Making the same as Aladdin, I heard. That biking is the same as Aladdin, I heard. Not totally sure to make of that, but I'll go with you on that. Yeah, biking. Yeah. Unless I'm misreading that comment, which is totally possible. But anyway, I actually thought Will Smith was, for the most part, enjoyable as the genie. There's some moments where I was like, I don't know. Like, some moments where he felt very Will Smith, which is kind of his acting style. But there are other moments where he was very, like, energetic and brought the energy of the genie to life. Which, those were the moments where it's like, oh yeah, that's awesome. I'm on board with that. I think he was a good pick. Maybe not the best, but he was a good pick for the role of the genie. I had very few problems with him. Okay. See, Aladdin is like the Lion King live action. Yeah, and I'm expecting, honestly, the Lion King live action will adhere even more to the original, which, you know, we'll see how that goes. I mean, I'm trying to be optimistic about it. It's like Disney has changed to live action movies. Well, it's more the fact that they're trying to reboot these movies for a new generation. Presumably, I guess, your guys' generation. Because they're Disney, they want to make more money. And animated reboots aren't really a thing at the moment. I don't think there's anyone who would be like, let's make another Aladdin movie. Only this time, it will be animated again. No, it's a reboot, but it's animated. That doesn't really happen. Live action is the best way to do that. Will Smith was the best character. Sometimes he really felt like he was the genie. I agree with that, yes. Thought the first song was the best. Yeah, I can agree with that. Like, his Friend Like Me, it was good. I honestly wish it was longer, his Friend Like Me. It felt too short. Like, there are some moments where he was over the top doing cool stuff, and the singing, it felt like a Will Smith genie, and I was on board with that. I would have been fine with it longer. Same with Prince Ali. I thought Prince Ali was a good number that I just wish was more over the top bigger. But yeah, so let me see what else I can talk about. Not Aladdin, Jasmine. I thought they made a lot of changes to her character, because in the movie it was very much so like she has to marry a prince, but she wants to marry someone for love, not because there's a timetable on her. In this movie, there's still kind of that, but it's more so she doesn't really want to get married, period. She wants to lead the country herself and be the sultan, which I thought was a really interesting take on the character, because it makes sense. It's her country. What's this foreign prince? Why should he know what is, right and wrong for the kingdom? She would know. So I thought that was a really interesting thing. I think, honestly, I didn't really have many problems with Jasmine. I thought her acting worked. Her character writing worked. More so my problem was that they gave her 2 new songs, which I liked the premise of the songs. They just, in terms of how they were written from an instrumental standpoint, really stood out, and they didn't feel to me like, Aladdin songs. They felt more like modern songs that they're like, you know what, we're going to put this on the soundtrack for the movie, people will download it, and that was the main intention of these songs, not adding something to the story. Like, in the moment, they really pulled me out. I was like, oh, okay, I like the premise of the song. It's really why story-wise, you should get her to a more emotional point. I don't know, and just how they shot those songs was kind of just, like, bizarre. The first one was really bland. The second song was really bizarre. But, again, I liked the premise of them. So, anyway, my little brother said he likes you. Aw, tell your little brother I like him, too. He's a cool guy. Anyway, what else? And then I think my biggest complaint was the film, though. Because I also don't want to hate on the film. I think the film is fine. It's good. I think my biggest problem with the film is Jafar. They took Jafar in a really different direction than the animated film did, and then what I would have. He's just very different. And I don't really know what else to say, because, like, one of the first scenes he's in, he pretty much kills a person. And I was like, oh, okay, we're in that now. Which also, little side note, the editing and pacing of that, because that was still in the beginning, that was rough, was bizarre. because it was right after a part where, like, Aladdin, Jasmine, oh, we escaped, oh my gosh, kind of like the romantic, flirty thing. Scene where Jafar murders someone, then back to the Aladdin, Jasmine kind of flirtation thing. Like, tonally, that was bizarre. But anyway, moving along. Jafar, he was just kind of, aside from that one scene where he basically killed someone, was kind of just a wimp, in my opinion. Like, he wasn't really intimidating, and the direction they took his character was, like, they really leaned into the manipulative side of Jafar, which is cool, but they didn't lean into the creepiness side of it as well. He just seems like, I don't know, I liked some of the changes they made to his character, but a lot of them just seemed messy, and the writing overall in this film was messy, especially for a Disney movie. Like, some of the lines were just off. Some of the just writing in general in terms of the action was weird. And just some of the direction. I mean, I don't want to bash on the director, but this was his first musical, and it kind of showed. It just felt a little rough. There are some moments of it that gave me, like, Disney Channel original movie vibes in some ways, but I, again, don't want to bash on the director. I think, again, the movie was fine. It was good. I enjoyed it. It's watchable. But they could have gotten in a better director with maybe a clearer vision. Because at least for me personally, I wasn't as big a fan of the overall vision. There were parts of it that I liked. And again, after the first 20, 30 minutes, it really cleared up. And I was like, okay, this is fine. Some of the changes I'm not totally on board with. But for the most part, I'm cool with it. I can watch this and I can enjoy it. Because, again, you still have the animated movie if there are changes you don't like. It's not like they're taking that away from you. I completely agree. He was just an edgelord. Yeah, the entire movie. Yes, that's a good way of putting it, actually. And it was super uninteresting. I agree. Only small part I enjoyed was the fact that he was kind of similar to Aladdin. Yes, the street rat. That was the change that I really enjoyed. And they, in terms of Aladdin, really leaned into that kind of master thief thing, which, in terms of animation, is really easy to pull off. You put something in somebody's animated clothing and then just have it reanimate out of someone else's pocket. It was kind of cool seeing that in live action of Aladdin stealing stuff really sneakily, and then when, that symmetry with Jafar being of that similar cloth, I thought was really interesting, because I didn't think of that before, but it adds kind of that idea of, that you get at the end of the film of, Jafar is like an Aladdin that wasn't raised as a diamond in the rough, you know? It would be, Jafar's just an Aladdin who, instead of just stealing small stuff, aimed his sights at the palace. Like, that's the only difference. And I found that to be an interesting choice. There are some interesting things with Jafar, but for the most part, they almost added in too many that it just kind of made his character messy and unmotivated. Like, his whole motivation came from a line he has where it's, you're either the most powerful person in the room or you're nothing. I'm kind of paraphrasing the line. I don't remember if that was that line exactly, but it was something along those lines. And it's kind of like, I thought that was interesting, but then they kind of gave him another motive that contradicted that, and then another motive on top of that, and it just kind of made the whole thing messier. But anyway, that's my thoughts on that. So let me see, is there anything else I have to say on Aladdin before we move on? And again, if you guys have any thoughts on Aladdin, Jonathan, I know you've been commenting away, and I've appreciated it, but if anyone else has any thoughts, love to chat with you about it. Anyway, let me make sure I'm all caught up on comments. Yes. Yeah, and then Carpet, I liked Carpet. Abu was cool. Razul the Guard was interesting. Is Aladdin a good movie? Yes, I'll say that. Aladdin is a good movie. Again, just kind of say what I said earlier. It's a good movie, but I don't think it's a great movie. But it's a good movie, as in it's not a bad movie. I enjoyed myself watching it. Could it have been better? Of course. Is the animated version better? Of course. Was it watchable? Did I enjoy it? Yes. So hopefully that answers your question. But Razul the Guard, who actually wasn't named Razul in this movie, I can talk about it more in a, spoilery podcast maybe next time, but I wasn't as big a fan of what they did with his character, as they really changed him up. But yeah, I found that to be interesting. Anything else? I guess I'll talk about Aladdin a little bit more, since he's the title character. I thought the actor did a fine job. I heard some people who weren't that happy with him. I thought he was great. I enjoyed him. He gave a good performance. The most part, the writing was on par. Maybe not perfect, but yeah, I overall enjoyed him. Anyway, I think that's all I have to say on Aladdin. So, if you're watching this in the future after the live stream, let me know your thoughts in the comment below, and I'd love to hear them, or read them, technically, but yeah. Detective Pikachu is the next movie we gonna talk about, hence, like it says in the title. But yeah, Detective Pikachu, I saw that movie a week ago, something like that, something like a week ago. But anyway, I guess the main thing I'll start with is I'm not a huge Pokemon fan. Like, I know the bare minimum. It's like I took a Pokemon 101 class. Like, I have that level of knowledge. I don't have a PhD or a master's degree in Pokemon, but I got, like, the bare minimum knowledge. Like, I can hold my own in a conversation about Pokemon. So that's just a little bit of reference there. But I thought the Detective Pikachu movie was a good movie. Was it perfect? No, but it was good. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it more than I enjoyed Aladdin, but that has more to do with kind of like the tone and the fact that maybe I'm not as familiar with source material or that kind of stuff, but I enjoyed the movie a lot. I was worried Ryan Reynolds' voice would be too distracting, but I actually really enjoyed it. I thought he did the character better than really anyone else I could imagine, because he has that star power where his voice is familiar to you, but not to an overwhelming point where you're like, alright, Deadpool, come on, or any of his other many roles he's done. Jonathan, haven't seen it yet. It doesn't look good to me, and it wasn't interesting. That's fine. That's fair. I can agree with that. And again, I mainly just saw it just because I was kind of intrigued by it, because video game movies have not had a great track record. I will say this is now one of the better video game movies, and really my complaints boil down to the fact that the pacing was off in some areas. It didn't go for a traditional pacing structure. It went more in that typical detective mystery pacing, which was fine, but for a Pokemon movie where they're also trying to make references and do stuff like that, in some moments the pacing just kind of got a little bit wonky, and when directions is sped up, slowed down. It's kind of weird in some areas. Cinematography in Detective Pikachu was well done, very well done, and I love the creature designs. Of course, they're based off the real creature designs, but the interpretation of what they would look like in the real world were always interesting. I heard someone say, like, I would watch 2 hours of just those Pokemon designs, and I agree with that. They were really interesting to me, and they looked good. Like, Pikachu looked good. Let me see, what else? And my other minor complaint was that I had it before I was going to hit record. What was it? Something similar to pacing. Oh, well, considering I can't remember, it's probably not a big deal. Pacing was the main one, I guess. But, yeah. Let me catch up on comments a little bit here. Depths of the Void. When is Okay, so Depths of the Void, episode 2 is coming out in about a week. Me and my sister's little brother got confused because of... Yeah, so that's something... Oh, that was the other thing. There are some plot holes in Detective Pikachu, which, I mean, my suspension of disbelief was at the point where I was like, okay, sure, I'm on board with it. Keep going, keep going. Okay, sure, keep going, keep going. It didn't really pull me out. It just gave me a moment of, huh, okay. But yeah, there were definitely some plot holes, and that's actually something I've heard a lot of other people complain about. They don't bug me a whole lot, but they're slightly noticeable. Or I shouldn't say slightly. They're noticeable, but for me at least, they didn't really pull me out of that experience. Need help making Transcrafter script. So I basically have... The workflow of Transcrafters is bizarre. So I do an outline first. So every episode has an outline. It's basically what's called a beat sheet of everything that happens. This happens, and this happens, and this happens, and this happens, and blah, 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 blah. I basically have that for all the episodes in Season 2. Then, using said beat sheet, I go in and record the episodes, which that takes anywhere from 1 to 6 hours. So it's a lot. And then... After I've shot it all, I create a rough cut using the beat sheet, and then I write the script. And then I edit that rough cut to the script. Then I record dialogue, and then I do another pass where I edit and time everything. And that's the workflow. So it's a weird workflow. Hey, at least Pikachu doesn't look like Sonic. Yeah, which is another talk. Oh, great segue, Jonathan. I appreciate that, because the next topic we'll be discussing is the Sonic trailer, which, when the trailer came out, immediately I was very hesitant to watch the trailer, and then I saw everybody posting about it, And I basically saw the trailer by not seeing the trailer initially, but eventually I did go back and see the trailer. But the Sonic design, wow. So I'm going to go chronologically in terms of what happens. The trailer came out, and people went crazy over how stupid Sonic looks. And I saw it and I totally agree. It doesn't look good. I get what they were going for in terms of that Sonic design. Like, I get the logic they had when they were designing it. And I'm sure it went through a focus group of people who said, yeah, I'm okay with that. But the focus group was not accurate, let's just say, because the internet went crazy. And typically, when the internet goes crazy, something you may not think of, typically it's a vocal minority. It's not the majority of people who have that opinion, but the people who have the opinion just tweet out like crazy. Whereas the people who are okay with it are like, I don't think this was one of those times. I think this was one of the times where the majority of people were not a fan of the design, and the majority of people spoke out and started tweeting. That's when you know you have a problem. When it's the vocal majority, not the vocal minority. But with that said, let me just kind of move along. People were outraged, and actually, like, that same weekend the trailer came out or something, the director tweeted out, "We've heard your complaints, and we're fixing the designs," which tells me one of two things is going on. It means either A, they expected the backlash, and what they did is they rendered scenes with this realistic design of Sonic and another of the same scene with a more classic design of Sonic, so they had both. And for the trailer, they cut scenes where they had the realistic version, so they could use that as a focus group and be like, okay, are people okay with this? And then if they were okay with it, they'd be like, great, scrap the scenes where we have that backup classic Sonic, and then we'll just make it the newer version of Sonic, and then we're good. And then if people are mad, we have rendered a classic version of Sonic that will just move into all the other scenes. That's one possibility, and that's kind of what I hope is a possibility of this was a planned test to be a marketing stunt, which marketing stunt I'm using a little bit more lightly than typical, because I think it was more of a marketing stunt / test to see if people would be okay with it. Spoiler alert, they're not okay with it. But yeah, and the other possibility is that they didn't know people were going to be this outraged, and now they're like, crap, we're going to lose all the money if we release this film, which, regardless of what Sonic looks like, it's not going to be a good film. Let me say that right now. But they're like, crap, at least if we have a good-looking Sonic, people will probably see the film. Let's fix this. Crap, which the bad side of that means that the VFX artists are going to be working overtime. And VFX artists, they have it really hard in the industry. Typically, if you see a movie that has bad CGI, that doesn't mean the artists who worked on the CGI didn't do a good job. It means they didn't have a lot of time. That's what that means. It means they were working overtime. They're putting in, 8+ hours a day, and the studio still didn't give them enough time to make the CGI look right. It's poor planning when you see bad CGI in a movie. It means they rushed it. Yeah, because then the film got delayed. But typically, what worries me about that possibility is that now the CGI artists are going to have to redo every scene Sonic's in. And that's not an easy job, especially when the classic design does look that similar. It's not like a reskinning. They have to retexture all the hair follicles. They have to recolor every hair follicle. They have to redo how the color of the hair follicle looks when light interacts with it. It's a really time-consuming job that sucks, and I do not envy them, but that means, really, the studio is punishing the VFX artists who are just told to do something, because now the internet's upset with what the higher-ups told them to do. So now the higher-ups aren't getting punished. They're still getting a paycheck. It's the VFX artists who are just getting hammered by this outrage, which is kind of the unfortunate part of it. Is now, thankfully, the film has been delayed, because I guarantee you, if the film wasn't delayed, Sonic would look even worse than it is now, because maybe they'd try and do a classic design, but it would look shit, because they wouldn't have the time to really make the lighting look good. They wouldn't have the time to make the physics look good. They wouldn't have the time to make it look good. So, I think they should delay the film more than they have, but that's my personal takeaway, because CGI takes a long time, and when you have a CGI character as the name character for the movie, he should look fucking good. So take your time on it. Like, give these CGI artists, the VFX artists who are making Sonic, let them have the time to make him look as good as they can possibly make it, because 9 out of 10 times that's not what happens when you get any movie that has CGI. Like, Justice League is a perfect example. I can guarantee you those CGI artists could have done a better job with the mustache. They didn't have time to do a better job. I was watching a video where they're talking about that last fight in Black Panther where the CGI just looks awful as Black Panther and Killmonger are going at each other. And the VFX artist said in the video, like, yeah, that was the last scene the VFX artists were handled. They had no time to work on it. That's why it doesn't look good. So I honestly wish that if it is the latter, which it seems like it is, that they delay the movie even longer or something, because the CGI artists, VFX artists, they need time. Because otherwise, you're going to have a shit script and a shit CGI character, and nothing about the movie will be good. If you give them time, that's not going to change the script. The script is still going to be awful. But at least, the VFX artists aren't being punished for what their bosses told them to do. Moral of the story. I know that was a bit of a rant, and I apologize. But anyway, let me just make sure I'm all caught up. Jonathan, you're going to be right back. That's cool. You're right. It's not going to be good for me. Yeah. Blah, blah, blah. My little brother thinks you're better than PewDiePie. Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate it. My sub counter disagrees, but... and my view counter definitely disagrees, but I appreciate it. I really... means a lot to me. Definitely does. Thank you. I appreciate it. Anyway, so that, my thoughts on the Sonic trailer. That movie. Anyway, so the next thing, which is really interesting and fairly new news, there's not a whole lot that's announced about it, but it's something I'm really excited for. Star Wars just announced that they're putting together a Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic film trilogy. Now, if you're not familiar with the Knights of the Old Republic games, they're awesome. And it's basically Star Wars events. If you have, like, you know, the sequels, the original trilogy, the prequels, thousands of years, Knights of the Old Republic, or at least hundreds of years, Knights of the Old Republic. And it's a game about, like, the early days of the Jedi Order, the early days of the Sith Order. And it's just, I really enjoy that time period of Star Wars. The games, I really like the games, especially the story. The gameplay I'm not quite as fond of, especially because it's older and then it's a little bit clunkier and it's not your typical gameplay for a game that's more RPG-esque, which is fine, but it's a lot harder for me to get into that kind of game. Anyway, actually, no, that's not true. It's that game specifically, the combat is a lot harder for me to get into than other games. But anyway, it's an RPG game, and it's, yeah, just in the past to the point where I remember playing it. It's so far in the past when you're like a level 1 Jedi, you don't have a lightsaber, you have a sword. That's how in the past it is for Star Wars. But anyway, so they're making a film series about Knights of the Old Republic, and I could not be more excited for this. They haven't put out any details for it, but I would love to see a Knights of the Old Republic trilogy. And I believe that's actually the next trilogy we're getting. There are 3 sets of Star Wars films they're talking about having. There's the writer of the Game of Thrones are doing one. Rian Johnson's doing one. And now apparently the Knights of the Old Republic, I thought that was going to be Rian Johnson's or the HBO writer's one. It's someone else is doing the Knights of the Old Republic. So, okay, again, Star Wars movies nowadays, you look at them and their track record, Star Wars used to be like the best. Now it's almost to the point where we have more bad Star Wars movies than good ones. So who knows if the Knights of the Old Republic movies are going to be as amazing as I hope they are. But the source material's there. They just have to have competent writers and a competent director, really. And you're good. That movie's done. The trilogy's done. It's there for you. I don't care if it's so disconnected from the prequels that, like, there's not even really references to stuff. It's just, it can be its own thing, and I'd be cool with that. Yeah. I feel like Star Wars every month they come out with, Maria, yeah. Like especially with the new Disney Plus show they have. Oh, what's it called? The Mandalorians. Yeah, that show is coming out, which will be interesting. But I'm actually, I think, more excited for Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic in a movie about that than I am Episode 9, which it just kind of shows like, I don't know, I feel like the problem with this new trilogy of Star Wars is that it wasn't planned out. They were making it up as they went. That's why you have people upset about the Rey parents thing, or, Luke's fate, or what happened there. It wasn't set up from the beginning. Right, or the J.J. Abrams. What's good about J.J. Abrams and why studios like him is he's good at asking thought-provoking questions like, who are Rey's parents? Who is Snoke? Who is blank? He's good at asking those kinds of questions, which is why he was a good director for Seven. But he's not good at answering those questions, which when after Episode 7 came out, Rian Johnson came on and had to basically answer those questions that J.J. Abrams didn't even have an answer to. And that's really hard as a writer and as a director. So what they should have done is waited a year, 2 years. And basically, I think they should have written the scripts for 7, 8, and 9 before they even started shooting Episode 7. That's what they should have done. That way, everything would have been planned out. You could set stuff up in 7 that would happen in 9. You could set stuff up in 8 that would happen in 9. You could set stuff up. You have more setups and payoffs that were planned, as opposed to now they're improvised. They're like, JJ's there going like, oh, what can I do? Oh, I can pay this off. Cool. And it's a spur of the moment afterthought, not planned from the beginning. And that's the problem I have with this Star Wars trilogy. But anyway, I digress. As we move on to the next topic, and if you don't watch Game of Thrones, you're like, what the hell is he singing? That's the Game of Thrones theme song right there. Poorly by me. Hopefully I don't get a copyright claim. If I get a copyright claim off of that, I'm taking singing lessons. Anyway, but Game of Thrones, we had the Season 8 finale, which I'm not going to give any spoilers to if you have not seen it or if you want to see it. But basically, I'm not even going to talk about really Game of Thrones. I'm going to talk about the controversy around it of people bashing this current season, which is fair. And I'm going to give my 2 cents on why I think people hate this season so much. And I'm not really going to talk about the season. I'm just going to talk about reasons why I don't think people are going to be a fan of it. And I go away for 5 seconds and come back. Gotcha. Okay. I got you. I see you. I don't literally see you. That would be weird. But I see what you do. I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying. Anyway, so Game of Thrones. So Season 8, first off, it had 6 episodes, which has been a main complaint for other people. I think the problem is that the pacing. Game of Thrones, if you've never watched Game of Thrones, and it was the reason that I couldn't really get into it, was the pacing is really, really slow. They basically, if a character has to get from one city to another, it's going to take them the whole season to get there. There's no fast travel in Game of Thrones. It's really all about kind of that journey and getting like that realistic feeling of getting from one place to another and doing things. It takes a long time. Whereas this most recent season is like boom, 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 trying to wrap everything up. And the pacing is really quick. Now, if Game of Thrones had a normal pacing scheme, this would be noticeable, but not as bad as it is now. Because Game of Thrones pacing is slower than the typical pacing of a show. So, when you go from really slow to really fast, it's going to be really jarring to long-term viewers. And especially when it's the final season and you're trying to pay off everything, it's going to seem like you're rushing. Or not. Let me try that again. Drink a little coffee. It's going to seem like they are rushing. Because they are rushing. They're rushing through the season because they want to do other things. Which is not really the motivation you should have for this kind of thing. If I'm being honest, what they should have done, if they really want to do other things, is bring in new writers. Don't hurt the show because you want to do other things. Have writers. So I think right now the 2 writers, bring in maybe like another 2 writers, and you guys co-write a season. And then you guys step out and they continue writing. Something like that, because right now what you got is now a lot of people feeling like this most recent season ruined the show when it didn't. If you still like the first several seasons, you're fine. And I'm going to say it right now. I think George R.R. Martin's the guy who wrote Game of Thrones, the books. I think he's waiting to release the new books because he wanted to see how people reacted to the show's ending. That's my takeaway. I think he's denied it, but I'm pretty sure his idea is like, okay, I told these writers how I wanted to end, which, by the way, people who are mad at the ending, that's what George R. Martin told them the ending would be. I think the getting there is going to be different in the book versus the show because they were rushing it. George R. Martin would have told them to do another 3 seasons to get the pacing right, but whatever. But the ending itself is, I think, the same as what George R. Martin's wanted it to be. So yeah, I think for the people who are upset at the ending, that was always going to be the ending. It's the ending they set up. It's just the getting there was sloppy. That's really it. So I think George R. Martin is waiting, see what people like about, the more recent seasons that have passed the book, what they don't like. So when he's rewriting it, he can be like, people didn't like this. Time to change this. People liked that. Okay, I'm keeping this in and amping that up. So that way he can have that approach to writing the rest of the book series. Anyway, little brother wants you to go to his birthday party. Heck yeah, that would be awesome. Really cool. And whatever his birthday is, maybe I'll just do a live stream or something. I don't know. We'll see. It depends on when it is. I'm a busy man. I'm not just sitting here twiddling my thumbs every day when I'm not recording. I do have things to do, but yeah, maybe. We'll see. No promises, but we'll see. Anyway, while we're talking about Watchmen, though, let me try that segue again. While we're talking about HBO, HBO has a Watchmen show coming out. Oh, funny. August 30th. Okay, never mind. That's 1 month after the Just Free Studios birthday. That's really cool. Well, early happy birthday, then. There you go. Anyway, so Watchmen, they're doing an HBO show, which supposedly it's supposed to come out sometime 2019. But I'm a big Watchmen fan, and I'm really interested to see what they do with this show. So, yeah, I don't have a whole lot to say because they haven't really released much of Watchmen. But it seems like they say it's an alternate story. I think it's the events that happened in the comic book Watchmen, 10, 20 years later. What happened after, I don't want to spoil the said ending of Watchmen, even though it's regarded as one of the greatest graphic novels of all time, so you should read it. And it's a comic book, so it's an easy read. But I don't want to spoil the ending of that comic, but it's what happens 20 years after that ending. It's my guess. That's my theory of what it's about. Anyway, and then the last thing in terms of movie TV news that we have to talk about is Cobra Kai Season 2. Cobra Kai is the sequel show to the Karate Kid movies, which if you've not seen the Karate Kid movies, they're awesome. Do it. Love them. They're great. But anyway, Cobra Kai Season 1, which is here on YouTube, it's kind of like a Netflix show, only instead of going onto Netflix, you search that show up on YouTube. It's a YouTube Premium thing, but you can do a 1 month free trial of YouTube Premium, which you may know as YouTube Red, because that's what it was originally called. They rebranded it for some reason. But anyway, it's basically a YouTube Red show. But Season 1 was phenomenal. It was insanely good. Season 2 is not quite as good, but it's really, really good. You're going to go eat? Alright, take care. I hope whatever you're eating is very delicious and you enjoy it. But anyway, but Cobra Kai Season 2, wow, is really incredible. Take care, man. Nice to see you. So if you have not seen Cobra Kai Season 2 or Season 1, please, please, please do yourself a favor and watch that show. It's so good. It's such a good show, Cobra Kai. Especially if you like Karate Kid. And if you haven't seen Karate Kid, watch the movie, then watch the show. And hello, Ian. Nice to see you. Or Ewan. How you doing? Welcome to the live stream. But Cobra Kai, I totally recommend it. This past season was awesome. And the ending of Season 2 is batshit crazy awesome. So, I was like, what is beyond insane. Anyway, enough of me nerding out about Karate Kid stuff. Now, moving on to gaming news, because the gaming, we haven't had a whole lot, but enough to talk about. So the first thing is Days Gone, which I've seen people bash that game. I don't think it's a bad game. It's not the best game ever. I think it has some bugs that they could have worked on and fixed with another month of development, or well, more realistically, probably another 3 months of development. But I think it's a good game. I don't get why people are just bashing it. It's not what the E3 trailer promised, and I think that's why people are not liking it, because the E3 trailer was insanely awesome, by the way, and that delivered a game of like right here, when in actuality the game's still good, but it's a good level of here, and this distance tells people that it's bad when that's not really the truth. It's good. If this is like what a decent game is, it's above. I say if a decent game's right here, that's where it's at. People were expecting it to be like right here. So the fact that it's here, it's not a bad game. It doesn't go below that decent threshold, but it's not what they were expecting. So I think that's why a lot of people have a problem with Days Gone. I don't really think it's that bad. I actually think it's a good game. But yeah, that's my 2 cents on it. And speaking of zombies games, we have World War Z, which is basically a spiritual successor to Left 4 Dead, that game series. And the new World War Z game is incredibly awesome. I really like it, and if we had enough Xboxes or PCs here at the office, I would totally get that for everyone, and we could do not Left 4 Dead videos, but it would feel like it. We do World War Z videos, because that game is awesome. But anyway, it's basically Left 4 Dead in terms of like you have to survive hordes. It's that kind of get from point A to point B throughout the level thing with little objectives spread throughout. You got characters with unique abilities, and it's a zombie game where you're basically just getting from point A to point B, killing every zombie you see along the way and trying to conserve ammo and do it effectively and work as a team, and it's really cool. And I really like it, and the hordes are awesome. The hordes are better than in Left 4 Dead, because it's the World War Z mechanic of zombies just crawling on top of each other, building like mountains of zombies, jumping off buildings, and literally flooding a street. Like flooding as in a tsunami flooding a street. It's insanely cool, and I really like it. But World War Z, check it out. Watch some videos of it on YouTube if you have not heard of that game. It's been really under the radar, and I have not a clue why, because it's awesome. But anyway, that's my 2 cents on that. I said 2 cents a lot this video. If I got 2 cents for every time I said 2 cents, I'd have like 10 cents. Anyway, the final game we have to talk about is Rage 2, which it gives me a lot of Fallout vibes and a lot of Borderlands vibes, but it's kind of an open world post-apocalyptic vibe, which, by the way, I'm saying this having never played Rage 1 or seen anything from Rage 1. Maybe it's just like, oh, it's not like Borderlands, it's like Rage 1 because it's Rage 2, that's fair. I get that. Anyway, almost every stream that I've watched, I've seen just 2 stream, but then you miss the Injustice 2 stream because it's cool. Don't worry, I'm planning on doing more Injustice 2 streams because I've been getting back into that game. It's awesome. So don't worry, I'll probably do another one. Oh, my sensei calls me Karate Kid. That's really cool. And that sounds like an awesome sensei. That's really awesome. Cool. And nice to see in the chat there, Jason. Anyway, but Rage 2, it's not a game I'd get, but it's very Borderlands-y. And I'd put up like a picture of the art style or some gameplay here. But the last time I did that, I got a copyright claim and lost all revenue on a 40-minute video for having like 45 seconds of a clip showing in the corner, not even full screened. So there goes that. But anyway, I will show you what it looks like, but I can't. So look up Rage 2 if you're curious. I think it's interesting, but it's not my kind of game. It's just not. It's not a game I could see myself getting into, really. And it's glitchy in some areas. But it's kind of cool because it's an open world thing of you drive around. It's like, okay, I'm here. My mission is here. I got to drive this car to point B. Or it's like a Mad Max type car. And you got to drive there. But along this drive, like there's, oh no, some like raid people coming in and taking my shit. Or, oh no, there's a race going on. Let me partake in that, get some money, and then I'll continue on to my mission. It's kind of one of those open world games for people with ADHD who are very like, ooh, let me do this, now this, and get distracted and constantly doing stuff. But yeah, it's that kind of game. That's not my kind of game, but if it is yours, cool, awesome. That's good for you. You'll probably enjoy Rage 2. But anyway, that's a lot of what I had to say on that, and I was gonna talk about the YouTube controversy with Pro Jared and James Charles, but I'm now thinking that, like, it's not worth it. If you really want to get caught up on that, Philip DeFranco talked about it. H3H3 talked about it. Heck, even PewDiePie talked about it. So there's a lot of other people talking about it, and I don't think I'd really have much new to add to the conversation other than the Pro Jared thing. The soliciting nudes from viewers, that's fucked up under any circumstance. That's not something he should do, and there should be, I'm guessing there's going to be legal consequences for it, because supposedly 2 of the people were underage. That's child pornography. So, not good for him. But if he's soliciting nudes from fans, fuck him, I don't care. Go to prison, legal charges, please. I want to see some court stuff there, just because that's messed up big time. But if you're not familiar with the Pro Jared thing, I'm just giving you, like, a tiny snippet of the full story. So other YouTubers talked about it, and I don't really want to repeat what other people are saying. So if you are curious, go search it up. Pro Jared, by the way, he's a Let's Player here on YouTube. And then the last part is the James Charles stuff, which again is also insane, but in a whole totally different thing. Jesus didn't know it was that bad. Yeah, so maybe watch a video or something. The main part of it is that, you know, divorce with his wife, where supposedly he cheated on her with another influencer in the industry, and the wife was pissed. And then there's the whole Tumblr account where he was, you know, it was thought of as like a body positivity thing, of like that kind of thing, but really it was just him asking his viewers for nudes, and then he shared his own. But anyway, accordingly, again, I still think there should be an investigation, because these are big allegations. 2 of those people were like 16 at the time, and according to at least one of them, she told him that she was only 16. But anyway, fucked up stuff there. I'll move along. If you want to know more, look it up. I don't want to repeat it. You can find it on YouTube. There's plenty of videos. The James Charles stuff, that one is different, because he has gotten even more backlash than Pro Jared did. Pro Jared lost, I think, 100,000 subs in one day. James Charles lost 3 million subs in one... No, he lost 1 million subs in a day. 3 million over the course of, like, 3 days. Or 4 days, or a weekend. Or I forget exactly how long he lost 3 million in. But it was 3 million subscribers lost in a really short amount of time. And if you look in the full thing, it's really just a lot of he said, she said, and the actual proof leans more in James Charles' favor, if I'm being totally frank, having seen not all the evidence out there, but a good, amount of the evidence out there. It seems like he lost 3 million subs for virtually nothing, because a lot of the allegations, there is some evidence debunking them. Not all of them, but a lot of them. And I can still believe that he's perhaps a piece of shit person. But in terms of the serious stuff that she's saying against him, it seems more like drama and less actual fact. But I'm better than Jacksepticeye. Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you. Means a lot to me. Means a lot. But anyway, that's just a little piece of both of those stories. I feel like I'm not the best person to tell those stories. Again, Philip DeFranco, he covers both of those. H3H3 talked about him on the H3 podcast. Even PewDiePie talked about it. So, like, there are plenty of people. Drama Alert, if you want to go that route, talked about it. So, like, whoever you want to watch, they can probably do a better job telling that story than me in terms of the full who said what and that kind of stuff of both the Tati James Charles situation and the Pro Jared story. So, anyway, thank you guys for watching this episode of the J4U podcast. I really appreciate it. It means a lot to me that you're here watching on the live stream or watching after the fact, especially if you made it to this point at the very end. It means a lot to me. So thank you very much. And yeah, we have an episode of Transcrafters coming out in about a month. Or not, I keep saying that. In about a week. I don't mean to worry you. June 1st, we have an episode of Transcrafters coming out. Not a month, a week. Episode of Transcrafters. So get hyped for that. It's episode 2. And yeah. I think that's all I have to say. So thank you guys for watching. Please like, favorite, comment, and subscribe. Share this video with all of your friends. And I will see you guys on the next episode of the J4U podcast, or probably more likely another video that'll happen between now and then. But again, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Later. Ooh, woo. By the way, I know you can't see me, but that was a really weird whoop, and I want to apologize just because I was trying to pull up something. But anyway, have a good day.